What do you see? I see not just a stew. I see a melting pot of cultures. This stew is an output of conflict, ideology, bloody war, and the struggles of Korean people to live on. Today's dish, the bude찌개, aka Korean army stew, will be pretty deep in terms of not only the flavor, but also the story. I'll tell you the story about it and then show you how to make it. Please leave a like and subscribe before we start. Always thank you very much for your support. Let's talk about the story. If you want just the recipe, skip the chapter using the timestamp below. But the best seasoning for a dish is always the story. Army stew is basically a stew made of food supplied to the United States Army. That food is such as canned ham, baked beans, and processed cheese, while those ingredients distributed in South Korea. To know that, we have to talk about the history between the United States and Korean Peninsula. In 1945, Japan surrendered in war against US. Colonies under the Japanese Empire were liberated, and Korea was one of them. Korean Peninsula divided into North and South based on the 38th parallel. North Korea went under the rule of Soviet, and for the South was the US. And that structure is still going on until nowadays. Then in 1950, North Korea invaded the South, and that was the beginning of tragic Korean War. US and South Korea fought together against North Korea, China, and Soviet, and the US military stationed in South Korea, even after the war ended in 1953. During and after the war, Korean people got terribly poor. After a long Japanese colonial era, Korean people had already been consumed by Japan, and the war to the Korean people was like a double tap. Korean people who managed to survive had to subsist on the aid the US military provided. It was so miserable that the people had nothing to eat, so they had to eat even the food waste from the military barracks. That was not an unusual thing. The symbolic dish was called 꿀꿀이죽, piggy soup to be translated. It was a soup made of ingredients collected from food garbage bins. Despite the harsh, miserable reality, Korean people lived on. All that being said, now we can talk about the army stew. The perspective that the piggy soup is the origin of army stew is not true. Piggy soup is based on food waste, but the army stew is based on legit ingredients. To be surprised, army stew was not a dish for poor people. The ingredients for the stew were not common goods. Throughout 1960 to 70s, food supplied to US Army was distributed in the black market, and those were not for normal people. Those were rare. But as time goes by, especially in the region near the US Army bases, some restaurants start to make dishes made of those foods. They made stew using basically Korean ingredients like kimchi and exotic canned foods like ham, sausages, and baked beans. And domestic processed meat products started to be distributed. The price for the army stew went down, and eventually, normal people were able to buy this stew when about 1970s to 80s. And that was the origin of the famous army stew. This is the most probable story of that. All that being said, why don't we make it for ourselves? It will be pretty easy, so let's go to work. There is nothing to worry because the army stew recipe is so generous. You don't have to be concerned about the amount or kinds of ingredients to put in. As long as you keep the big boundary, it will be fine. You know what I mean? Just chop the ingredients, pour the stock, and boil it. That's all. Let me introduce the essential ingredients first, starting with the kimchi. You need a decent, mature kimchi. If you didn't watch my kimchi making video, move on to that quickly after watching this please. Next, processed meat, ham, sausages, bacon, any products you like. There will be so many great sausages outside Korea. The stew you guys make could be tastier than mine. Last is baked beans. The tomato with sauce and bean make the broth rich. These three ingredients are the key of the stew. Rest of the ingredients will be explained while making the stew. Check this whole ingredients list if you need. Let's make the sauce first. Its ingredients are also optional. To the container, add minced garlic, doenjang, gochujang, soy sauce, chili powder, beef bone stock, and chicken stock. Add hot water and dissolve them. Just pour every Korean sauce you got into the stock. That is the character of this stew. It's all about the roasting. I'm going to start chopping the ingredients, and that is nearly everything to do. There is no rule for chopping, but I want to make it look as pretty as possible. First, kimchi. I'll chop it in a bowl using kitchen shears. Kimchi stains the chopping board and I hate it. Next, for the processed meat, I will use 3 different kinds. I want it to be fancy. That is Spam, Johnsonville sausages, and bacon. Spam is the Rolls Royce of canned ham, at least in Korea. It was treated as a fancy gift in Korea. It pairs so well with the rice, so highly recommended. Johnsonville sausage is also one of the most famous sausage brands in Korea. Cut it however you like, but don't slice it thick. We need to make the broth thick. And for bacon, I bought something not very authentic. It's more like a ham. Don't use salty bacon. It will be hard to manage the saltiness. These processed meats are up to your taste. Make your own combination to make the pot. The rest of the ingredients are also optional. I added what I think is good to add. Let's go faster. To the pot, spread bean sprouts, add kimchi, spam, sausages, bacons, crown daisy, spring onions, tofu, a slice of American cheese, and baked beans. Repeat, these ingredients are optional, but each one has its own role, so I recommend you to add them all. Now it's go time. Add the sauce into the pot, pour water, and boil. That's it. There is nothing to worry about. Every ingredient is so powerful. They got so much flavor as is, so you don't have to worry if it is not good. Despite the power that the ingredients have, the teamwork of them is incredible. Just like they were born to be one, they are so united. It's all done. It's ready to devour. One more thing, I need a drink. I can't resist. Icy cold soju. Yes, please give it to me. It has syrupy consistency when it's extra cold. Let's sanitize the throat. So good. Finally, let's have a taste. This taste cannot be imitated. So unique and so tasty. With white rice, it is just bulletproof. What if I throw a ramen in there? Insanely good. Perfect. Lemon is one more essential ingredient. Don't skip it. I can't resist again. I'd like to drink more. My choice is lager. Korean liquor pairs so well with food. What if I mix soju with beer? Insane. Why do you spend hundreds of dollars to drink? Happiness is not that expensive. For real, please make this an experience. Get some sausages, kimchi, stock, etc. and just boil them in a pot. That easy. You will not regret. Alright, that is it for today guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please support me by like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with another great stuff. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.